What if the life you've been praying for is already on its way, and your grip is the only thing stopping it from arriving? Most of us were taught that trying harder leads to better outcomes, that control equals safety, that if we just plan enough, worry enough, and prepare enough, we can prevent loss and guarantee what we love. But there's a quieter truth no one tells you. The tighter you hold, the less you can receive. The more you force, the more friction you create. And underneath all that exhausting effort is a single unspoken fear that if you let go, everything falls apart. Today we're going to gently challenge that belief, and it might change everything. Part 1. The River and the Rock. Why forcing life creates friction. There's a river that runs through a mountain valley in northern India, ancient, wide, and impossibly patient. Over thousands of years it carved its path, not by forcing the mountain to move, but by finding the gentle route around it, wearing stone down not in a single rush, but in 10,000 quiet moments. That river doesn't argue with the rock. It doesn't panic when the path narrows. It trusts that if it keeps moving, gently, persistently, it will find its way. Now picture someone standing in that river, arms outstretched, pushing the water back, demanding it flow in a different direction. How long could they last? This is what we do, every day, with our lives. We try to reroute what is already moving. We plant our feet and push back against the current of reality, convinced that if we just think harder, plan better, or worry more creatively, we can control what unfolds. Buddhism has a word for this tendency, upadana, clinging. It describes the way the untrained mind latches onto people, outcomes, identities, and circumstances, squeezing them until the joy drains right out of them. The Buddha observed this pattern in every human life he encountered. He didn't condemn it, he understood it. Because clinging comes from love, it comes from fear, it comes from a deep, honest desire to make sure that what matters to us doesn't disappear. But here is the gentle truth he offered. In the end, only 3 things matter: how much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of things not meant for you. The letting go, that's where most of us get stuck. Part 2, a Zen story, the Master and the Clenched Fist. There was once a young monk who came to a Zen master, visibly distressed. He had been meditating for months, practicing every teaching, following every instruction, and yet peace remained just out of reach. Opportunities he prayed for kept slipping by. Relationships he hoped would deepen instead grew distant. "Master," he said, "I am doing everything right. Why does nothing come to me?" The master didn't answer immediately. Instead, he picked up a small, smooth stone from the garden path and placed it gently in the young monk's open palm. The monk looked at it, beautiful, simple, cool against his skin. Then the master said, "Now hold it. Hold it with everything you have. Do not let it go." The monk closed his fingers around the stone. Minutes passed, then more minutes. The monk's hand began to tremble slightly. His knuckles whitened, his shoulder tensed, and slowly his whole body stiffened, guarding, protecting this single small stone. "Tell me," the master said softly, "what do you feel in your hand right now?" "Strain," the monk admitted, "and I can no longer feel the stone itself, only the holding." The master nodded, a small smile on his lips. "You came to me asking why life doesn't come to you. But look at your hand. Look at how you hold everything. Your prayers, your plans, your dreams. When you grip with this much force, you can no longer receive. You can only guard what you already have." The monk slowly opened his fingers. The stone rested there again, cool, present, beautiful. And in that moment, something inside him loosened too. Part 3. Signs you're blocking your own flow. That story lives close to many of us, not because we're weak, but because we were never really taught the difference between effort and force, between intention and obsession, between caring and clinging. So how do you know when you've crossed that line? How do you recognize when you're working against your own life? There are patterns, quiet ones, easy to miss until someone names them. The first sign: constant mental rehearsal. You replay conversations before they happen. You prepare for outcomes that haven't arrived. You run through every scenario, every possible response, every way something could go wrong. This isn't planning. This is the mind trying to control what it cannot see. It's exhausting, and it keeps you living in a future that doesn't exist yet, missing the one moment that's actually real. The second sign: resistance to the present, what the Buddha called the second arrow. The first arrow is the difficult thing that happens, the rejection, the disappointment, the loss. That pain is real, and it's human. The second arrow is the one you fire yourself. It's the story you tell about that pain. I should have done more. Why did this happen to me? What does this mean about my future? The second arrow always hurts more, and it's always optional. The third sign: viewing stillness as failure. When you sit quietly and don't feel productive, does a voice whisper that you're falling behind, that you should be doing more, fixing more, becoming more? Is that rest somehow giving up? This is the grip showing itself. Because rest, genuine, trusting rest, is terrifying to a mind that believes control is the only thing standing between it and disaster. These patterns are not character flaws, they are signals. They are the body and mind's way of saying, something in me doesn't trust that I am safe enough to let go. That distrust is worth sitting with, not fighting, sitting with. If this is speaking to something you've been quietly carrying, you're not alone. And there's so much more to explore together. If you find peace and meaning in these teachings, please take a moment to subscribe to the Buddha Coha channel and tap the bell, so these conversations find you when you need them most. Your support helps this community grow and keeps these stories alive. Now, let's go deeper. Part 4. What surrender actually means and what it doesn't. There is perhaps no word more misunderstood in spiritual conversation than surrender. For many people, surrender sounds like defeat, like lying down in the road and letting life run over you, like giving up on everything you want, folding your hands, and hoping for the best. That is not what the Buddha taught. That is not what any genuine wisdom tradition means by surrender. Real surrender is not passive. It's precise. It is the difference between releasing your grip on what you want and releasing your grip on exactly how it must arrive. You can still have dreams. You can still act, plan, and move forward. Surrender doesn't ask you to stop wanting. It asks you to stop clutching the specific shape your wanting must take. Think of it this way. A seed knows it wants to become a tree. It doesn't know whether it will grow tall in dry soil or rich earth, in shade or sunlight, whether a storm will bend it or a hillside will shelter it. It doesn't control any of that. But it doesn't stop growing either. It simply grows in the direction of whatever light finds it. That is surrender with intention. That is trust in motion. The Buddha described this as acting from right intention without attachment to outcome, planting seeds with care, then releasing them to the conditions of the world. You have a right to perform your actions, but you are not entitled to the fruits of those actions. Do not let the fruits of your actions be your motive, nor let your attachment be to inaction. Bhagavad Gita often echoed in Buddhist philosophy. This is where real liberation lives, not in what you receive, but in how freely you give your effort without the desperate grip on what it must return. Part 5. A modern story, Maya and the Job she almost missed. Let me tell you about Maya. Maya had been searching for a new position for 8 months. She was talented, experienced, and deeply qualified. She applied to over 60 roles. She visualized her ideal office. She had a sticky note on her bathroom mirror with her dream job title written in bold letters. And with each rejection, she didn't just feel disappointment, she felt betrayal. As if the universe was deliberately withholding something she had earned. As if positive thinking were a vending machine that had taken her coins and refused to dispense. The mental rehearsals intensified. She'd lie awake, imagining interviews, responses, outcomes. She started turning down social invitations. She needed to stay focused, stay ready, stay in control of the outcome. What she didn't realize was this: the tighter she held onto the shape of what she wanted, the more rigid she became. And rigidity, in people as in rivers, creates resistance. One afternoon, exhausted and frustrated, she went for a long walk. Not to think, not to plan, just to walk. On that walk, she ran into an old colleague she hadn't seen in years. They grabbed coffee. They talked, genuinely, without agenda. A week later, that colleague connected her with someone at a company Maya had never considered, doing work she hadn't imagined. It became the best job of her career. The position didn't come from the 60 applications she sent while clenched with desperation. It came through a spontaneous conversation she had the moment she stopped trying to control every variable. She didn't attract it with a vision board. She attracted it by becoming, for an afternoon, someone who had released the grip. Part 6. What the universe actually responds to. This raises a question worth sitting with. What does the universe, or life, or the natural unfolding of cause and effect, actually respond to? Buddhism doesn't promise that good things come to those who wish hard enough. That's not Dharma. That's wishful thinking wearing spiritual clothing. What Buddhism does teach is something far more interesting, that your state of being shapes what finds you. Not the words of your prayers, not the precision of your vision board, but the actual, honest quality of your inner life. Whether you are operating from fear and desperation or from grounded, open trust. Fear closes. It narrows the field of what you can perceive, what you can receive, and who you allow yourself to become. Trust opens. Not naive trust, not the belief that nothing will ever go wrong, but the quiet, practiced trust that says, I don't need to see the whole path, I need only to take the next honest step. The Buddha taught that cultivating metta, loving kindness, beginning with oneself, sends a frequency of openness into every interaction, every decision, every room you enter. It's not magic, it's alignment. When you stop spending your energy on resistance, something becomes available, a kind of receptivity that rigid control can never access. The mind is everything. What you think, you become. But this is not about forcing positivity. Pretending fear isn't there, painting smiles over genuine worry, that's suppression, not trust. The practice is gentler than that. It's about learning to feel the fear, acknowledge it, and then, gently, without judgment, returning to this breath, this moment, this step. That return, over and over. That is the practice. Part 7. Karma, Seeds, and the Wisdom of Timing. One of the most common misunderstandings about karma is that it works like a cosmic scoreboard. Do good today, receive good tomorrow. Hurt someone, be hurt in return. Cause and effect are a simple, immediate transaction. But this misses something essential. The Buddha's original teaching on karma was far more nuanced. Karma in Pali, is action, yes, but its fruits ripen in their own time, in their own conditions, in their own season. Think of it as seeds. A farmer who plants rice in spring doesn't dig up the soil in 3 days to check if the grain is growing. That would destroy the very roots beginning to form. He waters the field, he tends the soil, he trusts the process, not because he's naive, but because he understands how growth actually works. We plant seeds with every action, every thought, every intention. And some of those seeds take days to sprout. Others take years. Some take longer than we can see. The desperate grip, the need to harvest now, to see results now, to know now that our efforts are working, is itself a force that can disturb what is quietly, invisibly forming beneath the surface. A Zen teacher once said, "Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water." The outer action doesn't change. What changes is the relationship to that action. The expectation that it must produce an immediate and visible result, that changes. The need to control the timing, that is what surrenders. And in the space of that release, the roots grow deeper than you knew. Do not be impatient with your seemingly slow progress. Do not try to run faster than you presently can. Venna Henepola Gunaratana. Part 8. The kink in the hose. How inner resistance blocks outer flow. Here is an image that might stay with you. Imagine a garden hose, fully connected to a flowing water source. You walk to the end of the hose to water your plants, but nothing comes out. You squeeze the nozzle harder. You check the faucet. Still nothing. Then you walk back along the hose and find it, a single tight kink. One twist in the line and the entire flow is stopped. You don't need more water pressure. You don't need a newer hose. You don't need to want the water more desperately. You simply need to remove the kink. This is exactly how inner resistance works. Life, opportunity, connection, creativity, peace is always flowing. It is always available. But when there is a kink inside, when there is chronic resistance, constant forcing, refusal to accept what is, that flow cannot reach you. The kink is not your circumstances. The kink is not the difficult person in your life, or the economy, or your past. The kink is the tight, twisted belief that you must control everything to be safe. Removing the kink doesn't mean giving up. It means getting honest with yourself about where you're holding tension that isn't serving you. It means asking quietly, where am I refusing to let this be what it is? And then, breath by breath, beginning to loosen. Not all at once, not dramatically, just one breath of genuine acceptance at a time. When you do, something remarkable happens. Life doesn't suddenly become perfect, but it does begin to move again. Opportunities you couldn't have planned emerge naturally. Connections find you without frantic effort. Solutions arrive in moments of quiet rather than moments of panic. This is not mysticism. This is the natural result of removing resistance. Part 9. How to begin. Practical wisdom for everyday life. So what does this actually look like? Not on a meditation cushion, but in a real Tuesday afternoon when everything feels stuck. Here are practices rooted in Buddhist teaching that you can begin today. Practice 1. The pause before the grip. Before you react to a frustrating outcome, pause. Not to suppress the feeling, to observe it. Ask yourself, am I responding to what is actually happening or to my resistance to what is happening? This single breath of awareness can interrupt the automatic cycle of control. Practice 2. Release the outcome. Keep the intention. Before any significant action, a conversation, an application, a creative project, set your intention clearly. Then actively, consciously release your attachment to a specific outcome. You might say internally, I offer this effort freely. I trust what returns. Practice 3. Stop waiting to live. This one is perhaps the most important. How many experiences have you withheld from yourself, waiting for conditions to be exactly right? Waiting for the right moment, the right security, the right circumstances. The Buddha taught that life, full, rich, alive life, exists only here, only now. The waiting itself is the loss. What is one thing you've been delaying until life gets easier? Do that thing today. Not perfectly, just genuinely. Practice 4. Cultivate metta daily. Begin each morning with 3 minutes of loving kindness practice. Place your hand over your heart, breathe slowly, and repeat silently, May I be at peace, may I be well, may I be free from the need to control what I cannot hold. Then extend that same wish outward to someone you love, someone you struggle with, someone you've never met. This practice shifts your nervous system from defense to openness. It's not wishful thinking, it's rewiring. Practice 5. Trust the season. When results don't arrive on your timeline, remember the seeds. Ask not why this isn't working, but what might be quietly forming that I cannot yet see. This question alone can shift desperation into patience, and patience is not passivity. Patience is the deep knowing that growth has its own intelligence. Part 10. The shift that changes everything. Here is the truth that ties all of this together. Life doesn't begin to change when your circumstances change. Life begins to change when you change, when the kink inside you loosens, when your hands open, when you stop standing in the river pushing the current back. And that shift, that real interior shift, is not something you can force, but it is something you can choose. You can choose today to meet this moment without adding the weight of your resistance to it. You can choose to take your next honest step without demanding to see all the ones that follow. You can choose to plant your seeds with care and then, gradually, bravely, let go of the harvest date. A Zen teacher once sat with a student who was frantic with worry about the future. The student said, "I am so afraid of what's coming." The teacher looked at him with great compassion and said, "The river does not fear the bend, it simply keeps moving. You are the river. You were not made to stand still and resist. You were made to move, through obstacles, around what cannot be moved, over what time will soften. And in that movement, not in the desperate grip of control, but in the trusting flow of genuine presence, that is where your life is waiting for you. Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to know the whole path. You only have to take one gentle, open step forward. And then another, and then another. Trust the river, trust the season, trust the seed, and trust yourself. Enough to finally open your hands. If something in today's teaching touched you, if one idea shifted something, even slightly, please don't let it stop here. Subscribe to Buddha Coha and join a growing community of people who are learning, together, how to live with more peace, more openness, and more trust. Hit the notification bell so these teachings find you when you need them most. And if this video brought you something valuable, share it with someone who might be holding on a little too tightly right now. Your presence here matters. And we'll see you in the next one. Namo Buddhaya.